So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the Tories taking a victory lap over inflation, the rate of inflation falling, despite the fact that they did nothing.
Inflation's down to 3.2%. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Laura Trott, is here. It's good to see you.
Good morning.
It's good news.
Yes, it's very good news. And it hasn't happened by accident. When the Prime Minister took over, inflation was at 11%. You know, food...
So which party were in charge when inflation was so high? Who was Chancellor and who was Prime Minister? I wonder which party was there.
Inflation was at nearly 20%. That was so difficult for everyone at home. But because of the action we've taken alongside the Bank of England...
So we're going to hear a lot of buzzwords.
Which has been praised by the IMF, and the OBR has been very clear that the actions we've taken in this year in the budget have been deflationary. It's now down, and that's really good news for people at home.
But when inflation was going up, you said it was nothing to do with you, and now it's coming down. It's everything to do with the Prime Minister.
No, I think, well, the way that inflation works, obviously, it was a huge inflationary shock. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine did have massive pressure on energy prices here in the UK.
And we bought around 4% of our energy from Russia. And other countries, face similar problems, yet their energy prices didn't spike anywhere near as much as ours. So that's not really true, is it? And our food prices were, I think, way higher than a lot of other countries were. The main countries in the EU or in Europe that were impacted by the war in Ukraine was the ones that were reliant on trade with Russia more, like the Baltic countries. Geography. But for the most part, we shouldn't have been as affected as we were. The problem is all these energy companies took the country for mugs, and the government let them. When you look at France, for example, because they have a majority share in EDF, they told EDF, you're not putting the prices up. And then prices in Britain went up, but prices in France didn't. And that's what happens when you have a majority share, at least a majority share in one of the major energy companies.
And it's very difficult once inflation starts to then bring it down. But we have worked very carefully, very steadily on increasing the supply side of the economy, on making sure...
You've done nothing. What have you done to increase the supply side in the economy? With all the checks you keep threatening to put in place, that's inflationary. The fact that you didn't, if you had dealt with the energy costs at the supply side, it would have been better. I know they put the cap in and they subsidised it, but if you did things like windfall tax and stuff, it wouldn't have been as bad. Like the idea that they've done stuff on the supply side is largely rubbish. To be honest with you, they did fair enough. They subsidised the energy costs, but they should never have had to do that.
Or that we are being very responsible with public spending and working alongside the bank, because it's really important those two things work together. So fiscal and monetary policy have to work very closely together.
So given outside influences...
Again, there were economists saying that the interest rate increases have actually damaged the economy more than they helped.
How concerned are you about the impact of what's happening?
And she's just let her get off so easy there with the answer she's given. We did supply side reform and some other stuff, and that's why inflation's come down. Okay, so what about Iran? And it's like, what? Like, you barely asked any questions. Like, it's just, you start off strong with asking a question like, why is it to do with the government, when you said inflation is nothing to do with the government? But then you just teeter off so badly. I mean, it's just so performative and boring. And sometimes Kay Bailey does good interviews, sometimes just really bad interviews. I think the one she did with Cameron recently on Iran was good, but this one's just so washed. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.